I'm Roman Yossi of the Nashville Predators.
I'm Matt Duchesne of the Nashville Predators.
I'm Justus Aros of the Nashville Predators.
I'm Ryan Johansson of the Nashville Predators.
You're listening to the Renegades of Puck
with Crazy Charlie.
Welcome to the bunker. Welcome to the Renegades of Puck podcast. I'm your host and captain, Crazy Charlie Saunier. And before we get started with the No Half Step in hockey coverage, let me direct you to our home website, renegadesofpuck.com. Once you go to renegadesofpuck.com, you'll learn everything you need to know about the show. And once you're getting educated about the show, you can click on that merchandise tab, and that's going to take you straight to our classic logo t-shirt, our pride logo t-shirt, all of our different special event t-shirts, and so much more. All the gimmicks you've come to know and love from the Renegades of Puck are still available in our online store. Socks, throw pillow, wall art, bed sets. If you'd like to outfit your entire home or your entire body, you're welcome to do so, and we sure would appreciate it. We've sold out so that you can buy in. Social media is of critical importance to this independent hockey operation, so listen up. Here's how you can help us out. Please go to Facebook, go to TikTok, go to Twitter, go to Instagram, and give us a like, give us a follow, give us a subscription. Also, find Renegades of Puck on YouTube. Thank you so much. Stick taps, love, and respect to all the recent subscribers on our YouTube channel. And the audio podcast can be found on numerous platforms. Just search Renegades of Puck on your preferred platform or check out some of these examples. Google, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon, and several others. Again, just search Renegades of Puck on your preferred platform today. Venmo, that's how you can become a sponsor of the show. Just scan the QR code currently on your screen or go to Venmo and search Renegades of Puck. Thanks to generous Renegades just like you, we've been able to make significant upgrades here throughout the entirety of the bunker, as you've seen throughout the series of best of episodes these last couple of days. Whether it's the lights, the camera, the mic, or the computer itself, you have noticed significant upgrades. Thank you so much. Stick taps, love, and respect. That's thanks to generous Renegades just like each and every one of you out there watching and listening to the show right now. Now listen, I know it's time to get to the No Half Step in hockey coverage, so let me deliver the goods. It's time for operation number 750. That's all the way over here. It's time for operation number 750, and at this moment in hockey history for the Renegades of Puck, it is time for the best of special commentary. Now listen, every once in a while, a Renegade has an issue that they just need expanded time on, and when they ask for that expanded time and they have an issue that they need to cover and they need to get out in something that really, truly means something to them, well, I make sure they get the time. We call it the Renegades of Puck Special Commentary, and here is our collection of the best of special commentaries from throughout this season.
Thanks, Charlie. Hey, Renegades. It's Sean Smith, and we're going to talk, I want to talk about the win over the Kings, but I'm going to say this. There's a few other things that are on my mind tonight that I think maybe we need to get out in the open here. First, I'm going to say this. Exciting win for the Predators. Big win for the Predators. 5-3 game. A lot of excitement in the third period after a lot of excitement in the first minute of the game, followed by a lot of doldrums for a while there. And then after allowing the Kings to come back and score 3 unanswered goals, the Predators turned on the heat there in the third period and made things happen, came back and won 5-3. Now, I don't know. I don't know who's watching this team. I don't know everyone's hearts and minds, but I would assume that most people watching the game are fans of one of the two teams playing. Now, what does it mean to be a fan? Now, we can get into all this stuff. I'm not here to tell you what it means to be a fan. You can be a fan of this team, and you can think that the team needs a change. That's fine. I don't care if you feel that way. That's great. I'm glad that you're invested in the team enough to have a well-informed opinion about what needs to happen. A lot of people are casual fans. They like hockey. They're a Preds fan. They don't live and die by the team. They don't hang on to every bit of news that's out there about the team. They just watch the games when they're on, and they go, hey, look, these guys won the game. Oh, that's awesome. I like the Preds. Or, oh, these guys lost the game. That sucks. I like the Preds, and they go on. So look, if you are invested enough in this team and you spend enough time watching the team and you spend a lot of money to watch the team and to buy the merchandise, then I fully understand why you could be frustrated with the direction of the team right now. I know one big win against the Kings doesn't do all of the things and make everything better. That's fine. You can be upset about where the team is and where the team's headed. You can think the team needs a change. You can say that they need to fire the general manager. You can say they need to fire the coach. You can say they need to get rid of all the players, or that they should be playing Philip Tomasino, or that they shouldn't have waived Eeli Tolvanen. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that one little bit. I don't. I really don't. Because that means that you have an opinion. And honestly, any opinion's good, but a well-informed opinion is one that I think is worth something, and that's good. You can also be a fan of the team and be just as invested as the others and say, you know what, I don't care. I don't care that the team is headed in this direction, or I don't care that maybe the general manager needs to go, or maybe the coach needs to go, or they need to tear the team down and rebuild. But still enjoy the team winning, and that's fine. But here's the thing, and this is where I kind of have to draw a line in the sand, and I'm going to tell you why I'm going to draw a line in the sand here. It's okay to be a big fan of players. You can choose a favorite player. A lot of people have favorite players they love, people that they look forward to seeing play, players they make signs for when they go to the games. They go down to the glass beforehand during warm-ups to put their sign up on the glass and hope that guy sees it, cheer them on. I think that's really cool. You know, my son does that. My daughter does that. They've had favorite players that have been traded, both of them. They've developed new favorite players on the team now, and I think it's a really fun thing as a child to be a fan of a team and to have parents that take you to games and things like that. I get that. You can be a fan of a player. You can also not like specific players. I think that's okay too. I think realistically speaking, there are tons of great reasons to dislike players for things they do off the ice, beliefs they hold, whatever that may be, or the way they interact with certain types of people. You may not appreciate that. And you know what? That's your opinion, and you're entitled to it. I can support all of those things. But where I have a hard time, and I'm going to be really honest with you here, is when you have a player do something that, for them, is exciting. It's a career milestone. They do something they haven't done before. I think that's worthy of celebration. Cole Smith scored his first NHL goal tonight. It was not a decisive goal. It didn't push the team over to victory. It wasn't a game-winning goal. It was just an icing on the cake goal. It was a deflection. It wasn't some elite sniper shot. It wasn't where he didn't pull the triple deke off in a shootout or anything. Realistically, it was a greasy goal from a greasy guy. But it was his first. And I think that's something worth celebrating. And I'm going to tell you why I think it's something worth celebrating. Think about Cole Smith for a minute. Don't think about Cole Smith the way you think about Cole Smith if you've got a problem with Cole Smith. Think about him as a kid. Because at one point, before he was the Cole Smith wearing this Predators jersey, he was a kid playing hockey because he loved the sport. And he probably played it a long time. My own son plays hockey. He's 8 years old. He's played more hockey already at 8 years old than I've ever played in my entire life. And I look at if his road, which... goodness, we're short people. It may not happen, and that's okay. If his road leads to the NHL, he's going to be playing hockey for at least 10 more years before he even has a whiff of what that is or how close he is to that point. You know, maybe he plays college hockey. Maybe he plays junior hockey. But it's a journey. And every hockey player you see out there on the NHL ice has been on that journey for their mostly entire life. You saw a really nice, if you were at the game, you saw a really nice piece on Alex Carrier's family following him on this past road trip in the car, driving like the 3,000 miles just to see their son play. You know, and his dad made a really good point. He said, you know, the dream worked out for Alex. The dream worked out for Alex. But we had to make a lot of sacrifices. And so you've got to think that for Cole Smith to be where he is, there have been a lot of people that have had to make sacrifices to get him there. Parents had to maybe take extra shifts to pay for certain aspects of hockey. Equipment's not cheap, ice time's not cheap, travel team fees aren't cheap. Maybe they had to get up extra early to take him to the rink. I don't know. These are things that I don't know. I'm speculating because this is an experience I'm on from the other side right now. But somebody had to get him to his hockey practice for a long time before he could drive himself. And what's funny to me is that he's gone through all of this, spent years in the AHL, working his way, grinding it out every night, proving night in and night out that he's a guy that's going to give everything he has for his AHL team. And he finally gets a chance on an NHL team. Now, you can be mad that he's there. You can be mad that Philip Tomasino's not there. I've said before that's fine. But he's here, and he's playing for the team that you're a fan of. And the team won, And one of the goals that helped them win that game was scored by Cole Smith. It happened to be his first goal. And people are mad because he's on the team and he scored a goal. It doesn't make sense to me. And maybe people are mad because the team's celebrating it or the media members that are associated with the team are celebrating it and upset that that's something that people are celebrating. But at the same time, this all goes back to this is a guy playing hockey. He's playing hockey. It's been his lifelong dream. And he's unfortunately played for quite a few games before he scored his first goal. But he finally did it. He got the monkey off his back, as they were all saying in the locker room. And realistically, this was an exciting moment for him. And you know what? He was more excited to turn around and see his team cheering him on than he was about actually scoring the goal. The memory that Cole Smith's going to have of his first NHL goal is not going to be how it happened. It's not going to be what it felt like when he saw it go in. It's going to be what he saw when he turned around and looked at his teammates losing their minds on the bench for him. Because all those guys, and here's the difference between all those guys and all of us out here, they all know what that experience is. They all know what that's like to go from being a kid playing hockey and having to be driven everywhere by your parents and having your parents have to make sacrifices to get you where you're going and get you to do the things that you're going to do and you want to do. And they've experienced going all the way through that process to where they are now. And yeah, some of those guys over there make a heck of a lot more money than Cole Smith, and they've scored a hell of a lot more goals. And that's good for them. But right now, Cole Smith has one. And I guarantee you that one goal is just as important to him as the 200 or 300 that these other guys have. And if you're not happy about it, then I don't understand where your motivation's coming from. I'm not questioning your fandom. I'm not questioning your loyalty to the team. I'm not even questioning whether or not you have to like the guy. But if you don't get a little bit happy when you see somebody's dream get realized in front of a roaring crowd, much to the celebration of his teammates that you say that you're fans of, then I have to wonder where your heart is. Charlie, it was a good win. Great job for Cole Smith. Exciting time for that young man. And I hope that's the realization of a lifelong dream that he's been working for. And I wish more people could respect it and at least feel a little bit of happiness for the guy. That's all I got. Charlie, I'm going to send it back over to you.
There's not much good to say about the game we just watched. A 7-0 loss to the New York Rangers with an absolutely decimated roster for the Nashville Predators. So instead of a usual statistics-based one big stat, I want to do something a little different, and I ask you to bear with me. Tonight, I am, and maybe indirectly, going to be the topic of this episode's one big stat. Now, before we start, I want to say a couple of things. First off, please forgive me if I do a little bit more reading from my script than usual. This topic is pretty important to me, and I want to make sure I get it right. And second, I promise it's not just me telling a story about myself. There's a point to all of it. So without further ado, let's get started. Last week, after the Predators had defeated the Red Wings, I got to speak with several Nashville Predators in the locker room, just like I normally do, but one of them stuck out to me more than most. I was standing there, microphone in hand, talking to Kiefer Sherwood, and something kept just sticking in my head. What was it about Kiefer Sherwood that seemed different to me? I mean, I've had the chance to talk to 30, 40 NHL players so far in my career, but something was different about Kiefer Sherwood, and it stuck with me all night long. But then on the way home, I remembered something that I'd learned about him earlier this season when he debuted, and everything started to click. Kiefer Sherwood is half Japanese. And outside of his hair being much better than mine, being a few inches taller, and much better at pretty much everything sports-related, I was struck with a feeling that I had never had in nearly 4 years of covering the NHL. I was talking to a player that looked just like me. My dad, as well as my uncle, were both born in Japan and placed in an orphanage very early in their lives, and my grandparents adopted them. My grandparents at the time were stationed in Japan as part of the U.S. Navy, and after a short stint in the Pacific and a couple other places, they eventually moved back to West Tennessee, where all of my family comes from and where my dad grew up. Now, I'll be honest with you. Yes, technically I am a minority, but I feel pretty privileged when I say I've never once faced any prejudice because of it. And yes, part of it is because a lot of people just look at me with a slightly confused look on their face and go, what are you? because they don't know what my ethnicity is, but I can't say that once in my life have I been held back for something because of it. But I also know that I am very lucky to be able to say something like that. So why am I telling you this story? Of course, I still have to give you my one big stat for the night, and tonight's one big stat is 31. 31 is the number of Asian American players who have ever played an NHL game. From Larry Kwong, who was the very first and deserves to be in the NHL Hall of Fame, all the way to Kiefer Sherwood, there are more teams currently in the NHL than players who look like me that have ever played a game in the NHL. Of course, Paul Kariya holds a special place in most hockey fans' heart, of course, but it's always been a dream of mine to meet him for the very reason I've been talking about tonight. Again, you might be wondering, why am I telling this story? Representation matters, not just to future generations or marginalized groups, but even a 36-year-old beat writer with 2 kids who have lived a pretty lucky life. There's nothing I can say to explain what it meant to me when I got to speak to Kiefer Sherwood that night, nor when I talked to him after practice the next day about this very topic. Part of it, I guess, is hope. Hope that one day that number will be much larger than 31. And yes, I don't harbor any illusions of, well, if Sherwood can be in the NHL, so could I. But until that moment, it was the first time in 36 years that I got to see a professional sports player on my favorite team whose background was just like mine. And everybody should get to experience that feeling. Everyone, without exception. Again, I'm incredibly lucky that I get to speak to these guys after every home game, but even the fans in the stands can feel a kinship with the greatest sport on earth if there's a player out on the ice that reflects who they are as a person. Now, I'm not going to say anything more about James Reimer and the Sharks or any of the similar events that have happened this season. If you're watching this, chances are you already know my thoughts on it. But situations like that are why things like this matter. There are half Japanese hockey fans. There are female hockey fans. There are fans of hockey who are veterans. There are gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgendered, and other queer hockey fans out there. And every single one of them deserves to feel the way I felt standing in that locker room that night. Because sports has done one thing since they were invented, and that's to bring people together around a common interest. If you disagree with me on this, well, there's nothing I can do about it. But it's my hope that there are far more of you that agree with me than not. I want to close this out by saying something directly to you, Renegades. Since day one of working with Charlie, I have felt welcome and supported. Same with anyone who has worked with him. Same with the staff at On the Forecheck. I've been welcomed into the Predators press corps despite being a hockey writer with no formal journalism training. I want you all to live your lives to help others feel the same way. Reach out to somebody and welcome them to the game of hockey. Show them the love and passion that you have for this game and allow them to experience it too. I don't care what color, orientation, or other status they may identify as, because we're all human beings. Renegades, I challenge you to be welcoming to all of those people who cross your path, because you never know when something simple like a routine post-game interview could turn into something that means so much to a person, and in that case, it was me. Hockey has been the reason I've met so many wonderful people in my life. Hockey has been a place where I felt welcome in some of the darkest times of my life. Back in 2020, when I was suffering from pretty severe depression, hockey was the lifeline that I could hold on to because I loved the sport, but more than that, I loved the people, and it was a loving community that welcomed me in. And every single person in this world deserves the same feeling. So thank you all, Renegades, for listening to this. It's easy to feel anger, disappointment, or many other negative emotions at the state of the NHL right now, but there is always room for love, happiness, and inclusion, no matter what happens on the ice. Hockey brings people together, and I challenge you, Renegades, to be part of that positive force that welcomes people in without telling them that they don't belong. Because even though the NHL says it and probably doesn't mean it, hockey truly is for everyone, and I refuse to believe otherwise.
You know, tonight something happened at Bridgestone Arena that I never thought that I would see. Tonight, during the third period, out of frustration, a Nashville Predators fan took a catfish and threw it onto the ice during play. Now, in case you didn't hear me earlier, that is never acceptable, no matter how frustrated you get, and it should never have happened. But seeing that catfish thrown on the ice during gameplay, causing a stoppage, causing potentially problems for the team moving forward with what has been one of the most beloved traditions in franchise history, it made me start thinking, well, I didn't have much else to think about during the third period as the Nashville Predators were not performing up to standard on their own home rink, and I was listening to Let's Go Bruins chants throughout the entire third period. So it gave me time to think about this catfish that suddenly was thrown onto the ice, and it was, in fact, a catfish too far. And the Preds have reached a nexus point tonight, and one fan just took the beloved tradition of throwing a catfish on the ice, and he turned it into a moment of protest through frustration. Now, again, that can never happen, should never happen, and I hope it never happens again. But this particular person thought in his frustration that it was time to just throw his catfish over the glass and exit the arena, probably heading off to get arrested. Taking that catfish and throwing it on the ice in frustration was a true sign of protest by this one fan. And the franchise, it has hit a turning point. The fun is gone. And in tonight's 5-0 loss versus the Boston Bruins, the Band-Aid was fully ripped off. Section 303, largely filled with Boston Bruins fans. The visiting team from the Eastern Conference had enough fans to take over what has been, since day one, the stronghold section for Nashville Predators fanatics. I can only imagine those survivors of Section 303 that have been there, Mark Hollingsworth, Derek Hines, and so many others. I can only imagine what they felt tonight sitting there in Section 303 as they had to hear "Let's Go Bruins" rain down over them, overpowering them. Just too much. Combine that with the numerous empty seats in the building that we've seen not only tonight against the Boston Bruins, but in numerous home games as of late. This has to be a wake-up call to everybody over at 501 Broadway. Everyone from the top down needs to understand that tonight was a turning point for this franchise and for this fan base. The team core, they once captured the imagination of every sports fan in Nashville. 60,000 people downtown to watch that core group take on the Pittsburgh Penguins in the Stanley Cup final. That was quite a bit of time ago. And now, that core is long broken. Even with career years and record seasons last year, the Nashville Predators were barely able to squeak into the playoffs. And we all remember what happened when they did barely squeak into the playoffs. They were absolutely routed by last year's class team in the NHL, the Colorado Avalanche, in the only sweep in Nashville Predators franchise history. It was a measuring stick moment for the Nashville Predators that the Nashville Predators failed to measure up to. Coming into this season, there was a lot of good talk. There was a lot that was going to happen. There were some additions made to the team. The competitive rebuild, as has been sold since 2019, continued on. The team core now is broken. The team core is ready to be broken up. But that leads us to some really important questions. Who is going to be broken up from the team core? Is this going to be a complete removal of all of the familiar names and all of the big contracts that the Nashville Predators have pieced together over the last generation of this franchise? How will they go about doing it? Will they clean house going into the trade deadline coming up here soon? We've already heard the rumors being floated to radio hosts and some other NHL insiders that the Nashville Predators are not only going to be sellers if they continue this trend, but that David Poile will pick up the phone and have a conversation about anyone. What does that actually mean? So who, how, most importantly, will David Poile be the one rebuilding this? With the next decade plus of this Nashville Predators franchise up in the air and no clear mission statement and no clear direction, is David Poile the right general manager at this time to break apart this core and send these assets across the landscape of the NHL in return for what? What is the plan for prospects, for draft picks, for the next general manager, for current rostered players that could come in and reshape this Nashville Predators team somehow between the next 30 games and next season? Is David Poile the right general manager with all of his credentials, being a Hall of Famer, being the winningest general manager in NHL history, with all of those credentials? Is it time for him to be deciding what will happen with this Nashville Predators franchise for the next decade? It's not just David Poile. It's not just the general manager. It's not just the lack of clear vision and direction with the roster itself. It is the coaching staff. Coaches made decisions this season that have left the team flat and confounded. Closed-door meetings without the coaches, that's always something to pay attention to. Word salad. I've always appreciated the fact that John Hines is willing to give full, lengthy answers to how he thinks and why he makes decisions. But frankly, as of late, it's just become word salad. None of the things he is talking about are happening in application out there on the ice or with the players or with the team. Some of the most recent decisions, starting Lankinen versus Arizona and then sacrificing UC Saros to the Boston Bruins. 2 points could have been attained against the Arizona Coyotes with a Vezina-caliber goaltender in net, even with a flat Nashville Predators team in that game. But against the Boston Bruins, UC Saros never had a chance. Not only did you sacrifice your starting goaltender, but you sacrificed his confidence going forward into the next series of games. Another measuring stick moment where the Nashville Predators failed to measure up. The coaching staff has been making difficult and troubling decisions all season long. I give you that example right there, but what about the inability to find any cohesion in the lines this season? The Nashville Predators had remained relatively healthy until Philip Forsberg. But where was the cohesiveness in the units? Where were the combinations that had any chemistry? A failure for 50-plus games now. It's okay to be experimenting and moving pieces around, but ultimately you have to find some cohesion in the lineup. And when several of these players have been together for several years now and they cannot find any chemistry or cohesion, then I think we all know where this is leading to. The general manager, the coaching staff, the players, all of them share blame in this particular situation. And just what about the obsession with Cole Smith? The sacrifice of Eeli Tolvanen this season and what he is now accomplishing, exposing the Nashville Predators even further in these examples that I am giving right here. Numerous options could have been in this lineup this season over Cole Smith. The team, the front office, the coaching staff, they've all crossed the line tonight. And if the best you can do against the class of the NHL is a listless, passionless 60 minutes of hockey, then it's not time for a closed-door meeting or leaking rumors to the media. It's time for real change. And that time is now. It's time to break up the core of this team. The competitive rebuild era is ever. Tonight was simply a catfish too far. I'm your host and captain, Crazy Charlie Saunier. Stick taps, love, and respect. I'm Charlie Saunier from the Renegades of Puck, and this is the case for Carl, a Renegades of Puck special commentary. Now, the Nashville Predators will be hiring a new coach soon in their franchise history. There is no doubt about that. This is not a case looking backwards. This is a case looking forward. This case is for Carl Taylor to become the next head coach of the Nashville Predators. I'd like to begin with taking you back and telling you a little bit about the background of head coach of the Milwaukee Admirals, Carl Taylor. He is from North Bay, Ontario. When he was a player, he was a forward and also a defenseman at times during his playing career. He's currently 51 years of age, and after his junior career ended in the year 1991, he played 5 years in college at the University of New Brunswick. After completing 5 years at the University of New Brunswick as a player, he left hockey to complete his master's degree in 1996 in sports management. He would return to the University of New Brunswick as the assistant coach in 1997, and in 1998, the University of New Brunswick would win the CIAU championship. In May of 2000, Carl Taylor would be named Red Deer College assistant coach for 3 seasons. In 2005, he would move to the ECHL and the Reading Royals as the director of hockey operations. The Reading Royals, under his watch, would have a record of 112, 82, and 22 in 3 seasons. All 3 of those teams would make the playoffs. In 2008, continuing to move up the rankings in the Ontario Reign, head coach for the LA Kings ECHL affiliate, their first season. In 2009, they became the Pacific Division champions of the ECHL. In 2011, he accepted the assistant coaching job with the Chicago Wolves in the AHL, one of the premier AHL hockey clubs of the last many years. In 2014, he was named the assistant coach of the Portland Winterhawks, and then he was recruited by the Texas Stars of the AHL in 2015. Now, the Texas Stars have also been one of the premier teams in the AHL in recent history. He would go on to spend 4 years with the team before becoming head coach of the Milwaukee Admirals in the 2019-2020 season. In 2019-2020, in his first year with the Milwaukee Admirals, he would be named the league's most outstanding coach, and he would also get an opportunity to coach the Nashville Predators on an emergency call-up basis on December the 17th of the year 2021, and would have a 5-2 victory over the Colorado Avalanche. So 1 opportunity in the NHL, 1 victory. Now, with the Admirals, since becoming their head coach, 2019-2020, his first season, a record of 41-14-8, a 714 winning percentage, and a division championship in the Central Division. Unfortunately, while the Milwaukee Admirals seemed to be marching straight towards a championship that season, the playoffs for the AHL had to be canceled due to the COVID outbreak. The next season for the Milwaukee Admirals was also completely canceled as the Milwaukee Admirals would combine with the Chicago Wolves. Carl Taylor would, of course, remain with the Nashville Predators organization during that season. 2021-22, when the Admirals got back on the ice, they had a record of 39, 28, and 9, finished 3rd in the Central Division. But this caveat, very important, they won their first playoff series in over a decade by defeating the Manitoba Moose before falling to the powerhouse Chicago Wolves of the AHL last season. Now, this season with the Milwaukee Admirals, Carl Taylor currently has the Ads at 32, 18, and 5, second place in the Central Division, 1 point out of first as of the recording of this broadcast. Now, players for Carl Taylor, the Nashville Predators, they are arriving prepared and they are exceeding expectations. The Nashville Predators had some injuries throughout the season but remained relatively healthy, but seemed like each time one of these players got a call-up, they were not only prepared to fill in, but they exceeded the expectations for a call-up player in that particular opportunity. Now, as the season has progressed, the Nashville Predators have, of course, had to deal with several injuries, and now, after the trade deadline, have dealt with the trading and dismantling of several core and veteran players, leaving plenty of opportunities for young Nashville Predators prospects that have played mostly under Carl Taylor in their career. They are showing up more prepared than expected, and they are delivering the goods and exceeding expectations. Luke Evangelista is the most recent case and the most recent story, fully prepared for the NHL in his first couple of games after less than 1 full year within the AHL with Carl Taylor. Luke Evangelista has 41 points in Milwaukee this season and just scored his first 2 goals in the NHL in the Nashville Predators' most recent game. He's fully prepared to be here at this level. Tommy Novak, 26 points in the AHL, 23 points in the NHL this season. Tommy Novak is proving that he is a reliable player no matter where you put him in the lineup, first line through fourth line, give him the opportunity at center. He has shown he has the poise and professionalism to deliver the goods even at such a young age. Glass is another example. Thought of to be a project, now 24 points this season and getting first-line center opportunities. Clearly, something in his development process has clicked. There are other examples. Parsonen had 9 points in 10 games in Milwaukee, then came to the NHL and was fully prepared to take over first-line center minutes while the Nashville Predators needed, and now has 23 points at the NHL level this season. There's other examples. Leonard, Gross have had opportunities to come up, and we have seen them progressing. Afanaseyev is also progressing. He is a very young prospect for this Nashville Predators team, but most importantly, Yaroslav Askarov, the most unique personality in the entire American Hockey League, is being coached right now by Carl Taylor. The antics, the routines, the amount of fun, the character that Askarov brings to the game is only equaled by his actual skill level and play. Carl Taylor, so far in the first full season of having Askarov as his netminder, has been masterful in balancing the fun yet professionalism of being a hockey player in the Nashville Predators system. It is going to be of critical importance moving forward in this Nashville Predators franchise that someone is prepared and fully capable of handling the dynamic skill, talent, and personality of Yaroslav Askarov moving forward. Carl Taylor is already well out in front of showing that. Again, other players progressing. The Milwaukee Admirals marching towards the playoffs, and they're expected to make a long run this spring. And after Carl Taylor takes care of business in the AHL this postseason, well, and I fully expect that the Nashville Predators should promote him to the NHL level. It is going to be the most important training camp for this Nashville Predators franchise since the first training camp in franchise history. Speaking of that first camp by the Nashville Predators and their franchise history, well, it was led by Barry Trotz, the first ever head coach in Nashville Predators franchise history. And just quickly give you a little background on the first ever head coach in Nashville Predators franchise history. He finished his junior career in 1982 in Manitoba. In 1984, with the University of Manitoba, became an assistant coach. In 1985, became general manager and head coach of the Dauphin Kings. That's the team he finished playing his career with in juniors. In 1987, became the head coach of the University of Manitoba. In 1992, head coach of the Baltimore Skipjacks. That team was relocated to Portland and renamed the Pirates. And in 1994, Barry Trotz would lead the Portland Pirates to the Calder Cup championship. He would also win the Outstanding Coach in the AHL for that season. In 1998, he would be named the first coach in Nashville Predators history at 36 years old. He would go on to coach for the Nashville Predators for 15 seasons, 1,196 games, and he would be a Jack Adams finalist. I give you Barry Trotz's background after giving you Carl Taylor's background because you can't help but notice the similarities. Neither of these players made it to the NHL, but both significantly played for large portions of their life. Both have college coaching experience. Both have scouting and operations background at junior and minor league levels. Both have AHL head coaching experience. Both have won AHL Coach of the Year. But now one has the power to give the other the opportunity. Poyle once gave that opportunity to Barry Trotz, and now Barry Trotz can give that opportunity to Carl Taylor. Nothing is guaranteed. Carl Taylor's hiring does not mean that he will coach for 15 years with the Nashville Predators or 15 years in the NHL at all. But at this moment in time, it is obvious that Carl Taylor has done the work, is prepared for the next level, has proven it with numerous examples, and should be the leader and next coach of the Nashville Predators to lead these same prospects that he already has placed in the highest level of professional hockey in North America. Let him finish the job in Milwaukee. Let the Admirals go on their run. Then it's time to promote, and it's time to let Carl Taylor have his opportunity as the next head coach of the Nashville Predators and lead the next generation through what is guaranteed to be the most significant and important training camp that the Nashville Predators have had in 25 5 years. I'm your host and captain, Crazy Charlie Saunier. This has been a Renegades of Puck special commentary, The Case for Carl.